For Session Update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. The Capitol Rotunda was overflowing with orange-clad advocates clamoring for changes to Minnesota's gun laws in the aftermath of the recent school shooting in Florida. The event featured speeches from high school students, a teacher, and a number of mostly DFL lawmakers calling for action to prevent gun violence. Here's that Capitol rally.
I'm Nancy Nord-Bentz. I'm the Executive Director of Protect Minnesota. We are here today, crowded in this beautiful space, because the time has come. We know that it has come because last week, 17 more children and staff at a school lost their lives because of lax gun laws. What time is it? Now. We have an array here of students of all ages holding signs that remind us that we have been here before, many, many times. And for some reason, when those times came, we didn't think the time had come. But the time has come now. We're here today because kids across our nation of all ages are doing a better job adulting on the subject of gun violence prevention than the adults. The time for sensible gun laws has come now. It is my honor to introduce Gina Debogovich, who is a 1995 alumna of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, where the shooting happened last week. Give it up for Gina, please.
Thank you. Last fall, I left my job at Amazon to relocate here to live again in Minnesota so that my wife,
Really close to the mic, really close.
so that my wife could be closer to her family. The definition of love is moving to Minnesota in December. For me, Valentine's Day began with my trying to figure out what to do with the 5-foot-tall palm tree my wife had delivered to my office to help this native Floridian feel a little more at home in the frozen tundra of Minnesota. Then my world changed. My phone and Fitbit exploded. Friends were alerting me to the school shooting in Florida at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, my high school. The high school that helped prepare me to be the successful person I am today. It was devastating and tore a hole in my heart that will never be filled. When I was a sophomore at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, I wrote a paper about gun violence. That was over 20 years ago. We don't need more high school students' papers about this topic. We need all of us to stand up and take action. I will stand up. I will stand for the 17 individuals who were murdered in yet another act of domestic terrorism. Gun violence isn't stopping in the United States. We need to stop it now. Now! Enough is enough. Thank you all for your support.
The kids in this country have figured out that the time has come now. I am very pleased to be able to introduce two young women who are leading the movement in their own high school, Eva Goldfarb and Anna Ducer.
Hello, I'm Anna Ducer and I'm a senior at St. Louis Park High School. How is it that we call ourselves the greatest nation on earth and yet our government allows its children, its future, to be killed, and then turned around to thoughts and prayers to solve the problem. They think that we'll call out for change, hold a memorial, thank them for their condolences, and then sit around and wait for the next school shooting to do it all over again. We're tired of this cycle. Because of it, students have become numb to tragedies such as these. Thoughts and prayers don't save lives. Action does. Change does. We can't expect anything to change and anything to improve unless we make serious changes to the system. To our lawmakers, open your eyes. Various solutions to these problems exist. Australia and Japan are two countries that have significantly reduced the amount of shootings using two different methods. It's time for you to stop avoiding the problem because it's difficult or uncomfortable. Because discomfort brings awareness. Discomfort brings change. This generation, we have to be the change for ourselves because it feels as if our leaders have failed us. You say it's your job to protect us, but I don't think you know what that means anymore. So I'll help you. It means wake up, pay attention to us. We are the ones who are dying out here. We are the ones who are being killed for doing what we're told, for trying to prepare ourselves for the future, for going to school, for the color of our skin. We want gun control, and we will not back down because we're fighting for our lives. A couple of my friends and I recently participated in a Black History Month show at our school. In it, we recited a spoken word piece we had written. I find a specific verse to be fitting in this situation. It reads, "They teach us it is better to be silent than to make them uncomfortable." Well, expect discomfort because we will not be silenced. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eva Goldfarb. I'm a junior at St. Louis Park High School and a part of the Women's March Youth Empower Committee. A few days after Parkland, I went to bed and I had a dream where my own school was targeted by a shooting. When I went to tell my friends, a lot of them said they had the same dream. I wanted to say, gosh, what a horrible nightmare. But I realized it can't even be classified as a nightmare because even though it has monsters and terror, nightmares aren't real, and this is. This is far too real, and we know it too well, and we've known it for too long. So enough. We know gun control works. We know how to establish it. So why do we act as if it's a hypothetical fantasy, attainable everywhere but here? Why are we surprised every time an assault rifle capable of firing 15 to 45 rounds a minute kills that many people? There's no if, buts, or maybes. We are done with excuses and BS. And so we, the students, are walking out, and we're calling representatives. We're sending postcards. We're tracking who receives money from the NRA and how much. We're telling them to enact harsher gun control laws. We're even specifying which ones. We're registering seniors to vote, and so much more. We're joining and creating a movement. Frankly, because it seems no one else will. And I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about the 52 senators, 298 representatives, and one so-called president who are supposed to be protecting us, but are doing the opposite. I want to make one thing painfully clear. Politicians, we are speaking to you. We are not just asking school shooters to stop shooting, we are asking our government to stop giving them the means by which to do so. Sorry, not asking, demanding. Because this is not some social media trend or teen rebellion, it is life and death. There is an 8-year-old girl that asked her mom for new shoes because she realized her light-up ones would give away her location in the case of a school shooting. So we're not stopping. Not until we've convinced Trump and every other politician that our lives are worth more than the NRA's money. Not until we can learn about how to better the world around us instead of learning how to lock the door and hide in the corner as quickly as possible. Not until that little girl can wear Skechers without the fear of getting killed. We are not stopping until thoughts are replaced with action and prayers replaced with laws. We are committed. Gun reform is no longer a question of if, but a question of when. And the answer is now. Thank you.
Before you. Yes, I'm a teacher. I've taught for 22 years. Today, this afternoon, I took a personal day because this is personal. It is my job to teach my students. And a question I used to ask them years back was, what is your job? Your job is to learn. And what is the most important thing that I can do for you? And they would say, teach us. Today I ask that same question, what is the most important thing I can do for you? And they say, keep us safe. I'm sorry. And I was hoping not to get emotional about it. But when you have 24 little children looking at you, and the looks on their face are from the fallout of the tragedy of the 17 children who were killed, and you have to reassure them that you not only will teach them, but you will keep them safe, then that is a responsibility, and we accept that responsibility, but I do not accept that responsibility with a gun in my hand. No. If the answer to fair gun laws is to supply the teachers with guns so they can shoot the people who have the guns that are so prevalent in society, then that needs to be looked at. Because as one of my kids said, you know, Miss Yu, the more guns you have available to people, this is a 9-year-old, the harder it's going to be to control them. Duh. And they said, Miss Yu, what about the days when you aren't there? You know how kids can be when they have a guest teacher. You know that a kid could find a piece of bubble gum that is 2 years old in the back of a cabinet and chew it while you're not there. That child could find a gun. And children don't think the same as we do about things like that. They're a generation of video games. When someone gets shot, they bounce back up in a video game. They don't understand that. But I have seen, I'm also the teacher who 2 years ago was punched in the head and received a severe concussion. It was on the news, you saw it. And when I think of the situation where I was laying underneath two girls who were bigger than I was, and the blind rage in their eyes, if I would have been packing a gun, it would not have been me that would have been dead. They would have killed each other. There is no safety for guns in the classroom.
Now two legislators who really don't need introductions. They are such champions of gun violence prevention. Senator Ron Latz and Representative Dave Pinto.
Well, here we go again. Sadly, I'm about to say a few things that you have heard before. Another tragic shooting, this time in Parkland, Florida. We're here to protect people like Anna and Eva, my constituents, and my daughter Mia, who is also here with us today. You know, from 2013 to 2015, there were 84 school shootings in the U.S., 57 deaths. And what did Congress do? Nothing. From 2016 to 2017, there were 25 school shootings and 29 deaths. And what did Congress do? Nothing. In 2018 so far, there's not one, there have been 7 school shootings in the U.S., including Parkland's, and 20 deaths. And already, what has Florida just voted to do? Nothing. After every mass shooting for many years now, congressional leaders have said that we should let the emotions subside before we think about changing policy, that it was too soon to talk about legislation. Well, I say in 2018, we are many, many years too late. In Minnesota, if you are a convicted felon and you want to buy a gun, you can still do so without a background check. In the gun shows, online on Craigslist or Arms List, or from your neighbor. This is a gaping hole in our background screening system. That needs to change. We need to pass my universal background check bill. In Minnesota, if you or your police or sheriffs know that a friend or family member is going through a really bad time, is in crisis, is talking about hurting others or himself, you can do almost nothing to take his weapon away, even temporarily. That needs to change. If Florida had passed their gun violence protection order bill, which has been languishing in their legislature, they might have prevented that shooting. We need to pass my gun violence protective order bill in Minnesota. We have watched too many of our children die. We have explained too often to our children that it won't happen here. We have wept too frequently for other parents, sent too many thoughts and prayers across the country. That needs to change. Now we need more than thoughts and prayers. We need action. We need results. And we need to vote out of office those who will stand in our way.
So hello, I'm State Representative Dave Pinto from St. Paul. I'm the House author of those bills that Senator Latz just referenced regarding criminal background checks and gun violence protection orders. And outside the legislature, I serve as a prosecutor. I specialize in gender violence, domestic violence, sexual exploitation, I took that job because I wanted to keep people, and especially vulnerable people, safe. And whether you're a Republican or Democrat, whether you're a conservative or moderate, progressive, libertarian, we all agree on one basic function of government, right? And that's the one to keep people safe. Now, you are here to demand that your government, your representative, your senator fulfills that duty because they have not been fulfilling it. Bills to reduce gun violence have been introduced for years, and the Republican majority won't even give them a hearing. No. So let me tell you what you need to do today and tomorrow and the next day and the day after that and every single day until those bills get a hearing, get a vote, and become law. You need to go to your legislators and the Republican leadership. And when you do, don't worry about bill numbers and names and details. Don't worry about any of that, right? You just tell them 3 simple words. Keep us safe. When a gun is sold, we should be able to check to be sure the buyer is not prohibited from having the gun, right? Keep us safe. When family members or law enforcement see dangerous red flags, they should be able to go to court and keep guns out of the situation. Keep us safe. We should actually be able to do full research into the causes of gun violence, like we do car crashes, drug overdose, anything that kills us. Keep us safe. Yes, more funding for mental health services, absolutely. Of course we need that, but that's not enough, right? Keep us safe. And no, posting armed guards at every entrance to every school and movie theater and park and church service and prayer circle and place of employment in the country, no, that is not a solution. Keep us safe. And while we're at it, arming school teachers is insane. Keep us safe. There is no reason for untrained civilians to have military-grade weaponry, right? No. Keep us safe. We need to hold manufacturers accountable when they make these products. Keep us safe. Our lives are worth more than your gun money. Keep us safe. It's actually a pretty simple task, right? Go to your legislators, Republican leadership, and repeat 3 words over and over and over again until they finally get the message. Keep us safe. Again, keep us safe. Keep us safe. Keep us safe. Keep us safe.
Gun violence is a public health problem, and it needs public health solutions. I am so pleased to introduce, first of all, let's give a hand to all these legislators here who really care. We're hoping to be able to hear from all of them. Right now we're going to hear from Representative Aaron Murphy and Representative Fu Lee about 2 new bills that they are introducing that are public health bills. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Minnesotans. Good afternoon, Minnesotans. How are you? Are you feeling the power of you? Because I am feeling the power of you, and I know that when we stand together, we are unstoppable. My name is Erin Murphy. I am a registered nurse, and I am a teacher. I am a mother. I am a state legislator, and I'm a candidate for governor. And I am the author of the bill that would allow us to collect information again at the Department of Health about gun violence as a public health issue. And it is time for us to unlock for Minnesota the knowledge that we will gain from this information. When I and my colleague, Senator Matt Klein, introduced this piece of legislation, the first thing I heard back from the gun lobby was that I didn't know very much about guns. They like to tell me that a lot, and what I say to them is I know a lot about human bodies and what happens when bullets go through them. And it's time for us together as Minnesotans to recognize that if we're not willing to stand up to the gun lobby and to the NRA, if we're not willing to stand up and show our power, that what we saw happen in a school in Florida, in a school in Connecticut, in a church in Texas, in a concert in Las Vegas, we will continue to see that pattern. And when I think about the NRA and their power, they are powerful, and they have a lock on that chamber upstairs and that chamber in Washington, D.C. But do you know who has more power than that? We do. We, the people of Minnesota, and we, the people of America, have more power than the NRA and the gun lobby, and it is going to take us together to make sure that our communities and our children are safe. And I know you are here to do that very same thing with me, but it cannot end today. It cannot end today. This is a day in a march to prepare us to do what we need to do upstairs in that chamber, upstairs in the Senate, to pass the legislation that will build a bright future for the people of Minnesota, and I want to do that work with you. I will tell you, I've only gotten one big F on a scorecard, and that is my grade from the NRA. They know my record. They've not contributed one dime, and I would never accept a dime from them because they have blood on their hands, and so do the people who have been standing with them and against the progress that we need to make sure that we're keeping our children safe. So I will say to you, as I watch young people across this country, including the ones that were just on this stage, they are the power underneath us. They are the power and the beacon of hope that will guide us, and we must, as the responsible adults, stand with them and fight with them and believe in a kind of politics that puts us first. And when we use that and believe in our capacity to solve any problem, we can tackle this issue too, and I am your partner in that. Thank you for being here at the Capitol. Thank you for fighting for Minnesota. Thank you.
No principal trainee can prep you for their shooting. I repeat, no principal trainee can prep you for their shooting. This is a direct quote from one of my elementary school teachers in my district in North Minneapolis. On Friday, November 17th, there was 3 rounds of gunshots around Lucy Laney Elementary School where our students were outside getting ready for ski season. We have seen across the country all of these devastation and traumatic events, and I'm just glad to say that all of my colleagues are here today with me to stand in support of what you're doing, to take the guns out of our communities that should not be there. And for me, I'm glad to be introducing a bill with Senator Jeff Hayden to start a pilot program here in Minnesota so that we can start addressing the trauma that is associated with gun violence in our community. And Eva, I just want to say thank you for bringing up the 52 U.S. Senator and the over 200 U.S. House members. But we have to understand that there are 77 other House members here in this state capitol and 33 other senators here in this state capitol that we need to talk to too. And to all of our young people, it was not too long ago, it was only 10 years ago that I was in your shoe in this state capitol. And I want to let you know that, 10 years from now, you could be up here too, and you could be fighting for gun legislation that will protect all of our families. So I just want to say thank you all for being here, and let's move Minnesota forward and protect all of our families. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Thomas Kotke. I'm a practicing cardiologist, and I am president of the Twin City Medical Society. I live in St. Paul. Whether intentional or accidental, the killing of students with firearms has become a problem for many years. The mass killings in Florida, Sandy Hook, and Columbine are burned into our memories. But I also want to surface another face of violence. when my oldest daughter was in elementary school. She's now a psychiatrist here in town. One day, a classmate went to the morgue instead of class because a toddler found a pistol under a pillow. I told my daughter I was going to talk about this today. She sent me a 3-word email. I remember Travis. This was 35 years ago. Just a few years ago, a similar incident occurred across the street from my practice in the Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis. A toddler found a pistol in an umbrella stand and shot his brother. This isn't unusual. In 2015, toddlers in the United States shot 58 people. Every day on average, 24 children are shot in the United States, and even with the lowball estimate, this year there's been a school shooting where somebody has been injured or killed every week. The following are my personal views, and they are consistent with the policy of the Minnesota Medical Association. More Minnesotans die each year from firearms than from traffic accidents or opioid overdoses. This makes firearm violence a public health issue. Public access to information is a hallmark of a democratic society. Therefore, the Minnesota Department of Health should be mandated and provided with the necessary resources to track, analyze, and report to the public patterns and root causes of injury and death from firearms. The private seller privilege must be ended. Background checks must be required on all firearm sales. To not know the purchaser is banned is not an excuse for an illegal purchase. That's right. In addition to these positions taken by the Minnesota Medical Association, I personally support a trauma-informed gun violence reduction pilot program. The underlying cause of death from gun violence for 80% of white Minnesotans is suicide. The underlying cause of death for 80% of black Minnesotans is homicide. Whether suicide or homicide, those left behind are scarred for life. We need to address and end the suffering caused by the din of gun violence, and we need to do it now. Thank you.
It's not going to go out.
Hi, I'm Joan Peterson from Duluth, and I'm angry. It took just seconds for my sister to be killed by bullets in a domestic shooting 25 years ago. I want to introduce my nephew, Dario Anselmo, representative from Edina. My sister was his mother, and he's here today to support us all. So it takes 3 minutes on average for a gun purchaser to go through a background check. It took only several minutes for a shooter to kill 17 students. Not much time. 2 of those resulted in death, and 1 can potentially save a life. As a board member of Protect Minnesota and the National Brady Campaign, I know that our elected leaders have whiled away their time while our kids are being shot and our communities are devastated over and over again by shootings. When is the right time to do something? Now! When is the right time? Now! I owe it to the memory of my sister and my nephew's mother, Barbara Lund, to keep asking when the time is right. If it's not right now, after Sandy Hook, Red Lake, Columbine, Virginia Tech, and all of those other mass shootings and everyday shootings, when is the time to do something about gun violence? Now! In the name of the 17 killed at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and the student survivors who are turning their grief into action, we ask our legislators to act. And when do we want them to act? Now! We've had enough. Say it with me. We've had enough. Very good. And now, I would like to introduce you to my friend and St. Louis County Commissioner Frank Jewell from Duluth, who has a few words to say to you.
And I'm going to pop in just really quickly again. I'm Dario Anselmo, I'm the state representative from Edina, and I'm a Republican, and I'm proud to be a Republican. Thank you. And I'm a citizen and a human, and that's why we're all here. And I'm here with my aunt and my colleagues and a lot of reasonable Republicans that I know are here and they're out there. And we need to find ways to help them, help you, help all of us. So please do that. Thank you.
So I'm Frank Jewell. I'm a county commissioner from St. Louis County, the biggest county in Minnesota and one of the most rural. It's also a place where lots of people own guns and go hunting. And yet I, for 25 years, have been talking about what isn't good about guns. The kids who kill themselves with a gun they find in their father's closet. The domestic abusers who shoot their partner. There are all kinds of places where we have the ability to impact gun laws. We can keep people from getting those guns and keep them away from kids. I love this sign up here, protect children, not guns. That is what we need to do. I was hired as the violence prevention coordinator in St. Louis County after we had 13 murders by guns in Duluth in 1 year. That breaks all the records. 4 months later, 3 boys were shot right in the face by a kid who went home and got his father's Luger and came back at a party and shot them. And what did we do? Nothing. The time to do something is now. We can't wait. Thank you all for being here, and talk to those people in the rural neighborhoods, your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your fathers, and bring them on board.
We have so many great leaders here who want to speak, so this is our 1-minute power time now, legislators. 1 minute, we're going to start with Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Representative Jamie Becker-Finn. I am a mom, I am a prosecutor, and I'm also a gun owner. And first, thank you all for showing up today. This is incredibly powerful. It's truly amazing to see this movement grow. So I'm not the most partisan person here at the Capitol, but the following is the truth. If you want your legislature to address gun violence, you must help us elect a DFL majority this November. And Representative Pinto mentioned this as well, as it is, Republican leadership will not even schedule hearings for us to have a public discussion about these bills. There are good common sense ideas that you all know about and are educated about, that you heard about from my colleagues earlier, but we continue to need you to show up and we need you to vote. Yes. Voting is so critical. It's not just showing up today. We need you to vote on November 6th. Now, I want you to take a second and look around and look up. I spoke at this rally last year, and there are so many more people here. We can continue to grow. So I challenge you, and I share this with you as a gun owner and someone who grew up in northern Minnesota, in rural Minnesota. I challenge you to dig deep and not vilify gun owners and not vilify our friends and neighbors who are coming around to join us in this fight. We need to bring more people in order to make these changes. So do not vilify each other. So again, thank you so much. I will share with you again, I own a gun. I have owned a gun since I was 12 years old. It is part of my culture as someone who grew up in rural Minnesota. And I also believe as a mom and a prosecutor and a legislator that it is completely reasonable for us to have background checks, to ban bump stocks, to support public health research, to ban assault weapons. Those are not mutually exclusive issues. We will continue to grow and remember to vote. Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. I am Tina Liebling, state representative from Rochester and a candidate for governor. It's so inspiring to be here with you today, seeing all of you, listening to the stories that you're all listening to. You know, I know that we vacillate between feeling profound grief and horror at what has been allowed to continue in our nation, and then a sense of incredible inspiration as we look around and we see who's here and we hear the stories of courage. You know, my colleague was just talking about elections making a difference, but I have to tell you, it's really not about which party we belong to. In 2013, one of our colleagues, Michael Paymar, who's not here any longer in the legislature, but actually had the seat that the wonderful Dave Pinto holds now, had brought bills through. He brought bills through committee to increase background checks, close the gun show loophole, give more discretion to police. And what happened? The Democrats were in charge, and those bills never came up on the floor of the House. So this isn't only about party. This is about courage. Yes. Courage. Courage. Right? So I certainly agree that we'll have a better chance to pass reasonable gun laws if we change who's here. But that isn't enough. You all have a very important role to play, because I'll tell you this, cowardice is contagious, but so is courage. When we see our kids, we adults should be so ashamed, right? Where's our courage coming from now? Our kids. Our kids. Our kids are our leaders. That makes me incredibly proud. That inspires me, and you all inspire me. Say it with me one more time. Cowardice is contagious, but so is courage. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, my name's Steve Swardzinski. I'm a state senator, and welcome to the People's House. It can never be morning in America until we can stop the mourning in America due to the loss of our children as the result of firearms. I taught American government for over 30 years, and my hardest days as a teacher were the days I had to walk into that classroom and say, we had another Rocori today, we had another Red Lake today, we had another Sandy Hook today, we had another Virginia Tech today, we had another Columbine today, and yes, again, yesterday or last week, teachers throughout this state and this country had to walk into their classrooms and look at those students and say, we had another Stoneman Douglas today. The hardest days teachers have are those days when they have to look at those students' faces in their classrooms, and those students look out at us in disbelief and distrust and doubt. They're losing confidence in us, the adults, to keep them safe. In my life, there was another period, another era, where the youth lost confidence in the adults. The 60s generation finally realized that if we were going to ever get out of Vietnam, the youth would have to start getting us out. And millions marched, and millions demonstrated, and millions woke us up out of our slumber. And they got us out of Vietnam. For years, I joked with my students that if your generation was the generation in Vietnam, we'd still be in Vietnam. And they'd look at me and nod their heads and kind of look like this. But something happened last week. Something happened last week, and I think this generation of young people found their Vietnam. One of my colleagues last week said, I don't think you're ever going to stop these incidents from happening. And I agree with that. However, I disagree with him on this. We have to try to do something. I believe in my heart and soul that right there is the next Dr. Seuss. And right there is the next doctor that's going to cure cancer. And right there is the next homemaker. The next homemaker. I thought I was at a National Organization of Women rally. No, okay, anyways. Right there's the next homemaker who's going to raise a healthy family. And we can never have mourning in America until we stop the mourning in America due to the loss of innocent lives from homicides from firearms, due to the loss of innocent lives due to suicides from firearms, due to the innocent loss of lives in our theaters and our dance clubs and our concerts and our schools from firearms. When we wanted to vaccinate our youth from polio, there were those that say it can't be done. When we wanted to put seatbelts in our cars, there were those that said this can't be done. When we wanted to stop secondhand smoke, there were those that said it can't be done. Well, I say to them today, when you say to me, nothing can be done, I say, watch us.
I'm Senator John Marty, and I have a Remember Sandy Hook button. I want to say this is a Remember Sandy Hook Elementary button, and I'm tired of collecting buttons after tragedies with thoughts and prayers, which we all have for, because that's not enough. And I think we're reaching a tipping point, and the American people are standing up and waking up, and they're being led by some courageous high school kids who've said, we've had enough. And it's time for a rational discussion of serious gun laws, not one where the gun lobby comes in and carries their guns to intimidate people who speak out in favor of gun control, but a rational adult conversation about guns. And we're going to pass closing the loopholes on background checks. But we also need comprehensive gun laws to treat guns so we don't have people, citizens, civilians carrying weapons of war in our communities. It's time to stop that. So please make sure the coming weeks during the session, in the coming months during the campaign, that you speak out, because we can make this happen. We have to make this happen. We have to tell every politician in this country that our children deserve more rights than our guns have. Yes. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Representative Jim Dabney, and I have the privilege of representing part of South Minneapolis in the Minnesota House. Thank you. Now, yesterday was a bit of a proud papa moment for me, as I watched hundreds of students from my children's high school walk out in solidarity with their peers from Parkland. it got just a little prouder when we could see my son's red hair above the rest of the crowd. Something about being 6 foot and red-haired makes him easy to pick out in a crowd. But it occurred to me as I looked at those photos and I talked to him when he returned home, that instead of giving their teachers guns, let's give those children counselors and social workers. Let's give them arts and music. Let's give them sports and drama. Let's give them the tools to become whole people. Because people who are connected to their community don't bring guns to school. Let's raise our children to be the people we know they can be. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ilhan Omar. I'm a state legislator, and I am from East Africa, Somalia. I am a child who grew up during wartime. I survived a civil war. And most of the people that I talk to that have grown up in time of war and have survived wars as a child, we all share these stories about learning on how to dodge bullets, how to hide in case your family gets attacked by militia. That's a normal thing that children who've gone through war share. Those are normal stories. What I find sad and heartbreaking is that the kids that are growing up post-Columbine all now share those stories of going through drills in their schools on how to survive a mass shooter. That we are having conversations on what to do when you go to the movie theater, that announcement comes and it tells you about the exits that you're supposed to run through in case a mass shooter arrives. This should not be normal. We do not live in a country that is going through war. We do not live in a country that is expecting to go through war. We are living in the United States of America. This should not be normal. I was finishing high school when 9/11 happened. Everything stopped. Everybody started talking about how this should never happen. We said never forget. People automatically started coming up with solutions on how to make sure there would never be another 9/11. Well, I expected that conversation to take place after Columbine. I did not expect that nearly 2 decades later, we would be sitting here having conversations about whether it is the right time to talk about this or not, whether we have ideas or not. This should not be okay. This should not be normal. This is not acceptable. We must act now. We need laws to protect our children and everyone now. Thank you for being here, and make sure to insist on that now.
Now, 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 everybody. I'm State Representative Frank Hornstein from Minneapolis. And I just want to say, and I've been with many of you all day today, your energy, your spirit, your power is reverberating through this building as it's never done before. There is something going on in our communities. Your organizing is being felt. And so, this is our moment. This is our time. Let's continue to seize it today, tomorrow, next week, every day, so that this session, this 2018 legislative session, is the session that we finally make progress in Minnesota on gun violence protection. You are power. Let's get this done now. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Hello, everyone. I'm Senator Sandy Pappas from St. Paul. Tell you one issue we haven't talked about yet, and that's the issue of domestic violence. In 2017, 53% of women murdered by their current or former intimate partners were killed with a firearm. Firearms are the most frequent weapon of choice. It's important that we remember these victims and we say her name. On April 7th, Maria McIntosh was killed by her boyfriend with a gun. Say her name. Maria! On February 17, Alicia Swenson was shot multiple times by her husband. Say her name. Alicia! On February 25th, Lacey Cushell was shot and killed by her boyfriend while she held their infant daughter who he narrowly missed. Say her name. Lacey! On May 12th, Laisha Linnell Wiley was shot and killed, also with an infant baby nearby. Laisha, say her name. Laisha. On November 5th, Dawn Marie Bloomberg was shot and killed by her husband. Say her name. Dawn. On November 2nd, Martina Lopez Garcia was shot by her ex-boyfriend. Say her name. Martina! We need to do more than remember these names. We need to act for there to be justice and change. Protect the women. Protect the children. Protect Minnesota. Protect Minnesota. Protect Minnesota now. Protect Minnesota now. Protect Minnesota now. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Scott Dibble. I'm a state senator. I have the pleasure of representing South and Southwest Minneapolis. Living testament to the proof that when it's worth doing, it's hard to do, but it can be done. Absolutely. We passed a marriage bill a few years ago. That was really hard, and it said we couldn't do it. We can do this. Things like this never used to happen. I don't remember anything like this when I was a young person. What's the difference today from a number of years ago? The NRA has become a tool of the gun manufacturers, not regular people, not people we all know and love in our lives, many of whom are gun owners. I grew up in a military family. My dad needed to know how to use a gun to do his job. My brother is an officer in the Navy. I grew up hunting. I completely agree that it's not gun ownership that's the problem by reasonable people. It is the lack of common sense measures that ensure greater safety to help reduce gun violence. Yeah. I want to share a phone call I got from a former staff member of mine. He had just gotten off the phone the day after the Parkland massacre. Get a load of this. NRA calls. We are calling from the NRA with a one-question survey. What's the one idea you have to stop someone with mental illness from shootings like the one yesterday? My former staffer says, ban AR-15s. She nervously laughs, shifts to talking points about how Chicago has terrible gun violence and the strictest gun laws. That's why the NRA wants to pass the Conceal and Carry Reciprocity Bill. That means anyone with a conceal and carry permit can come, go anywhere in the country. My former staffer, that's a terrible bill. I'm a gun owner and don't think that a random person from another state with no training should be able to just come here. Of course, she's surprised. She doesn't know how to proceed. Get this, she says, that's why with your contribution, Wayne LaPierre will send you an NRA duffel bag and a monthly subscription to their magazine. Whereupon he had a fit and hung up. Unconscionable. Raising money on the backs of a tragedy on the day after to propagate more gun violence in our country. Many of us are here in honor of people we know and love who have been hurt or we've lost to gun violence, lost to suicide, to gun accidents. Please raise your hand if you're here in honor of someone you know and love. I am too. I've lost good friends to murder, I've lost good friends to suicide. But I especially want to remember my LGBTQ and Latinx community members lost at the Pulse nightclub. I want to share these words from a survivor at the Tallahassee rally yesterday. I'll go quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to come and do this.
And then I'm going to recognize my colleagues here. Powerful words from a survivor. After the first graders were gunned down at Sandy Hook, what did you do? Not a damn thing. You ran back to your gun-free spaces in DC and hid under your desks until CNN stopped talking about it. After 49 people, including my two brothers, murdered at Pulse, what did you do? Not a damn thing. You plugged your ears and turned your eyes and hoped that we would stop talking. And now we're here again. 17 people are dead, 14 of them are children, and what did you do when given the chance to do something about it? Not a damn thing. Instead, you avoided eye contact once more with these incredible students, and you voted not to keep them safe. You sent thoughts and prayers as your remedy, but refused to take action. Well, members of the legislature, I am proud to announce that I took your advice. I have been praying. I've been praying for you. I pray that you look in the mirror and figure out your priorities. I pray that you sign the No NRA Money Pledge. And should you choose your wallet over our lives, I pray you enjoy your retirement. Very quickly, we have State Senator Melissa Franzen, State Senator Jim Carlson, State Senator Melissa Halverson-Wicklund, State Senator Susan Kent. You've heard from the others. We had a whole bunch, State Senator Ann Rest, and a bunch of others who had to go. We have Kyle Olson from Amy Klobuchar's office here. She sent her regards. Senator Tina Smith sends her regards. I saw State Secretary of State Rebecca Otto here earlier, and Mayor Jacob Fry was here with us as well. Our kids are worth it. They are showing us the way. We can do this. Thank you very much.